The Liberty Elementary Governing Board is called to order June 27th, 2025 for a special meeting. We're at the Jerry Rovey District Facility. We have 5 board members present. Board Member Zimmerman is remote. Board Member Schmidt is also remote. For purposes of the recording, the phone number ending in 50 is Schmidt, and Ms. Zimmerman's name does show up on camera for this. We also have Vice President Kenyon, Board Member Strincioni, myself, Michael Todd, and we should be joined by legal counsel shortly in the event that we need them. Our next item of business, it's also for the record 2 p.m. Next item is the Pledge of Allegiance. Vice President Kenyon, if you could please lead us.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next item on the agenda is 1.3, approval of special meeting agenda. I'll take a motion in a second.
Mr. President, motion to approve this agenda consistent with the board policy BEDB and temporarily suspend governing board policy which with this agenda may be inconsistent.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. If there's no discussion, we'll go for the vote. Board Member Schmidt.
Aye.
Board Member Zimmerman.
Aye.
Vice President Kenyon.
Aye.
Board Member Strincioni.
Aye.
I'm also an aye. We will show that approved 5 yes, 0 no. Next item on the agenda is item 2.1, discussion, consideration, and possibly take action on procedure for meeting concerning interim superintendent screening and search process. Members, to bring you up to speed a little bit of this, at our last meeting, ASA presented, there was some questions about sending resumes of all candidates via email to a board member that was not able to attend the screening meeting that we have scheduled for Monday. The vendor ASA, Arizona Superintendents Association, is not willing to do that. So, we ran into a similar situation. Vice President Ken, you probably remember when we did the last search, the firms just don't like to do that. So we have a few options. We can, I see 3. We can always open it up for more. The first one is we conduct the meeting and we just not allow any emails of the resumes to be sent out. The second option that I can see is that we postpone the meeting, the search process, and then that would push everything back. And the last one would be we would have to change vendors. That would probably cost us some money because most of their work is done at this point, and we could start the process over. Personally, I think that's probably not a good option. There's no probably with that. I just don't feel that's a good option. Option 1 and 2 are relevant. I will caution you that the state law requires all board members who are attending a meeting to attend the meeting and have all documents. You can't provide some documents without others. What this situation puts us into is either pushing this meeting out or voting to not allow electronic attendance to the meeting. Those are kind of the 2 options there. So with that, I will open up for discussion.
Mr. President, if I may?
You may.
Before I decide, I would like to ask Ms. Mohorn, just real quick, her thoughts on if we were to postpone this and kind of push it out a little bit, how are you feeling leading the district up until probably into the new school year? What are your thoughts on that?
In the spirit of transparency, it's a little overwhelming. I'm hoping as we bring our new leaders on board, as we get people hired, that will be a little bit better. We are working as hard as fast as possible, but also slow enough to get the right people. I do not want to go so fast that we we're not careful to make sure that we're getting the right people in the right seats. And so that's what's most important to me as we're hiring, especially our leadership, of course, our others as well, but especially our leadership positions. And so that's what's important. And as we bring on our leaders, I think it will be less overwhelming. I mean, as you know, I'm right now filling in all 3 top spots. So it comes in waves. It's not constant, but it comes and goes in waves. So if I'm being totally transparent, that's my honest answer.
Thank you.
Mr. President.
Ms. Zimmerman, go ahead.
I have a couple of questions. Are the resumes or applications that are submitted to ASA submitted electronically?
I believe that is their process, yes.
Okay, so I'm not understanding why sharing them with elected officials that are already tasked with the security of documents a problem when they're already shared to them electronically.
I can't answer that for them. The rationale that I was given when I talked with Ms. Siegel about this was that, and by the way, she's had a little bit of a medical emergency. She should hopefully be joining us at some point. There is a option for the search firm to not release that data. They feel that being released at any choice, there's an opportunity that it could be leaked. It could be mishandled, of not necessarily intentional, but unintentional, and it could lead to problems, and it shies away people who may want to interview for the process. We kind of heard the same thing in the last search, that these search groups don't really seem to want to share that information outside of a room. In our last search, they gave us a binder. When they were done, they collected all those binders, and we were not allowed to take them out of the space. And so I think that's the best answer I can give on that. The Attorney General's opinion that Ms. Siegel did send out to everybody on the board, I believe, talked about the fear of losing the cream of the milk, the top echelon, maybe because people don't want to apply and risk that their employer finds out.
And so I guess I'm just confused as to, companies all the time, in these days conduct their business virtually, electronically. There are, ways that you can secure documents with passcodes, things like that. So, when Mr. Jorgensen was, in the meeting, he did not indicate that they wouldn't. It wasn't their preference. And so I guess I'm just wondering, when did that change?
Well, you got the information about the same time. Mr. Jorgensen spoke with legal and did talk to me the very next morning and say, we've got concerns with this, we're working through it. And I just asked him to coordinate with legal from there. So that basically is what has transpired. Again, this seems to be very common. Talking to other folks that I know in the education industry, other board members, they said they've never been allowed to get electronic copies of the candidates. So
Yeah, I just find it very odd since, candidates put their resumes online all the time. We've made resumes public as a part of board docs before. So, I find it to be unusual myself. So, my question is, I think that there are other ways to do it. I think that, there could be, in the executive session, there can be a projection, or somebody can share their screen. So it's not being emailed, but that people are able to view it. I think, it's unfortunate that we're in this situation needing to look for a superintendent in the summer, where people, already have plans. I'm doing my very best to be a present board member and contribute. And I certainly do not want to hold up district business, but I do think that there is a way to allow everyone to participate.
every option that we've discussed with, at the end of the day, ASA just wants paper copies that they can recollect. They have concerns of screen captures or other people seeing them, a number of things. All the search firms have kind of told us that previously as well. So yes, there seems to be options. However, ASA, our vendor, has held very tight to you're only comfortable with having a hard copy in an executive session that then they will maintain control of once it's gone. Once we leave, those documents, they belong to them and they stay with them.
Okay, so are they willing to read the documents out loud?
I mean, that would be a board decision that could be considered, I suppose.
Or, could there be a conversation earlier in the day with one person so that it doesn't hold up the board during executive session?
Well, I don't believe we can do it earlier in the day because then that would be providing information to one board member and not all board members. So that would not be possible. If the board chooses to read them, that would be something that would be done. I don't know how effective that is. Ask anybody else to chime in to read them and be able to review them and see what they're like. Anybody else want to weigh in?
Mr. President, if I may.
You may.
In the past, there's been board members who have divulged confidential state data. I think that it's very important that we protect this process. There's a process for a reason. And as every one of us board members know, the selection and hiring of a superintendent is the number one biggest job that a board member has. And so, I think in the last meeting, Mr. President, Todd has tried to accommodate everybody. And to be completely frank, board members weren't being transparent about when they were available. So we have a meeting set for Monday and another one for Wednesday. And, I was not sure if postponing the meeting so everybody can be there in person or continuing the meetings as planned, which one would have been best. That's why I wanted to reach out to Ms. Mulhorn and ask her what her feeling was, because if we were to postpone it, that leads us out probably until, after school's already begun before we actually select an interim. And I do think the sooner we can get a candidate selected and hired, the better it is for the district. So, really, I think that this needs to be taken seriously. We've all made sacrifices to be on the board. And even this meeting today, this wasn't a scheduled meeting, which means that myself and other board members had to take work off. We're losing money to be here, but we're committed. And I hope our constituents see that. And so that kind of is where I come down on this, is if we're not going to be transparent about when we're available, and at this point, I think we just need to continue.
Mr. President, can I respond?
Yes, one second. Our lawyer's trying to call in. I think they're having some technical problems. I'm going to just ask everybody to pause. We'll pause the video for a second. We'll be on a short recess. Okay, the time's now 2:16. We're live, and we have Ms. Susan Siegel, legal counsel, on phone with us as well. Just for reference, we talked about the situation with the meeting for Monday and the concern from the vendor of releasing the resumes electronically. Mr. Kenyon expressed some concerns, and now we're at the point where Ms. Zimmerman has asked it to respond. So, Ms. Zimmerman, if you will carry on, please.
I'm not sure what Mr. Kenyon is referring to because he's not being specific about releasing state data. I don't understand what that means. And I think that, it's unfortunate that this seems to be a very targeted attempt to not have me participate. Everybody is making sacrifices, and just because I don't want to divulge my entire summer schedule, it's unnecessary. I knew I needed to be virtual for the meeting. I indicated that I needed to be virtual. I don't need to spell out my entire schedule. There is no policy that says board members cannot participate virtually. And so I really hope that the board finds a way to make this work, because I agree with Mr. Kenyon that we cannot hold up this process. I'm not in disagreement with that. But I cannot change, medical appointments and second opinions and things and flights and things that I've already paid for. That was long before the board decided to enter into a settlement agreement with the previous superintendent. I cannot plan those things. And so
Sure.
I think that there can be something worked out, because as do you, I am needing to represent the constituents that elected me to this position. And this is the most important thing we do.
It is.
So-
May I speak?
You may.
Yeah.
So the law is that no board member has a right to participate remotely. It is always contemplated that you participate in person, but if the board allows it, you can participate remotely. I understand, because I have had to participate remotely as a lawyer, understand the nuances of that. That said, I think that the only, compromise, and I haven't run this by ASA, but would be that someone read you the, if the concern from ASA is that the resumes get out there and are floating around, then that someone read you the resumes while you participate. That's the only answer I have. I've racked my brain. I've talked to other school lawyers in other law firms, not just my law firm, but Udall-Shumway and other law firms. And we've come to the conclusion that if the confidentiality of the resumes and the names of the applicants is important, and so important to the point that there's a fear that they would be released, then what we can do is read to you while you're on remotely the names and the qualifications.
Which would be fine. And before you got on the call, I asked about that option.
Yeah, that is an option. And so in my view, of course, it's up to the board to decide on that. But you have a right to participate, and you should be able to participate. But if there's a concern about confidentiality, then we need to come up with a way to deal with it. So it's up to the board, but one option would be to read to you the qualifications of the people that are being considered.
Ms. Schmidt, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I would like full participation, obviously. I realize that I also am remote today because I am traveling, all of which was planned long before we were in this situation. And I actually had to move my plans for next week to fly out the following day from my family so that I could be there for the interview day. So I think we're, to Mr. Kenyon's point, we're all making sacrifices. We're doing the best that we can in a situation that was not planned ahead. In terms of reading out loud, obviously that would slow our process down, but I am fine with doing that so that everybody can be an active participant in the reviewing of all the applicants. It seems like that might be our only option in order to have all 5 of us be able to participate.
Mr. Sorrentioni.
Oh, yeah. My main thing is I don't want to postpone this. So if there's a way we can do it and make everybody participate, allow them, then great. If not, that sucks. It really does. But I just don't want to postpone this anymore. I think we need to get it done. But hopefully we can find a way. If not, I'm sorry.
I think you can find a way. I think if I haven't talked to ASA about this, but I think you can find a way, and I think the way is to read the resumes out loud among us in executive session. It's not my rule, to be honest. This is ASA, and they the applicants are goosey about people knowing that they're applying and people doing background searches immediately on them before they have a chance to give their shot. And it's a two-way street. You want to get somebody who's very good, but you don't want to scare them off because you've done all this background check, ahead of time. So my compromise to you would be, in this, believe me, when I say my compromise, it's racking my brain as to what can be done. So go through their resumes, tell the highlights, and then go forward with that.
Okay, more discussion.
I guess I have one. So if that is the route we go and we all agree on that, if ASA still doesn't agree with that, we're gonna have to have another meeting to come up with another plan.
Yeah, I can lean on them on that one, I think. I haven't talked to them about it, but I'm just going to say, I told to them that the board members each have the right to participate meaningfully. And if you absolutely cannot be there, I think the compromise is to read off the resumes of the people that are applying.
Mr. President.
Vice President Kenyon, please go.
So I think this can be determined on how many applicants we have. Do we know if we have 2, 3, or 20?
Do you know, Mr.
I confirmed that it was closed. They did tell me that at last check, there were 13.
Yeah.
They thought there could be a few more coming.
But then you had some drop out.
There were 3.
It's a loosey-goosey number.
Yeah, 13 was a solid number. They had a few who did drop out. But 13 was the solid number as of yesterday morning.
Mr. President.
Yes, sir.
So I feel that needs to be an in-person meeting. I think that reading them out loud is a little bit more. If a board member wants to do that, I think that would be up to them. I don't want to read all 13 plus resumes out loud. because it's not just going to be the resumes. I'm sure there's going to be supporting documents. And if we're going to read anything, you got to read everything and not just portions of what's given to us. Because last time we went through this process, I had a binder that was probably about 1.5 inches thick of papers to read on, I believe it was about 10 to 12 applicants. And I don't think that's a reasonable request if we're doing it for 13 plus people. And I would hate to only give part of the information by only reading, say, the resume page instead of all the other supporting documents. So personally, I think that this needs to be an in-person meeting.
Well, let me just go back. A board member does not have a right to demand a remote participation. It is allowed, but it's not a right. And if that's the route you go, is there a time that all of you can get together in person to collaborate on this?
Mr. President,
Yes, sir.
I think that time for collaboration was given last meeting, and we still don't know when all the board members are going to be available. Ms. Zimmerman, I'm not looking for your entire summer schedule. What I think Mr. President was looking for was just when you were going to be back in town so we could do a in-person meeting with everybody. So there is everybody in the process, but your lack of transparency on when you're going to be available is very disheartening. And so again, I think that this needs to be an in-person meeting, and I appreciate you, Ms. Schmidt, saying that you've had to move things around to make sure you are here in person, and I know that's a big sacrifice, but this is the biggest job we have as board members, and I think we need to take it seriously.
Mr. President, if I can.
You may.
Ms. Siegel, I have a question. It's a concern that Vice President Kenyon brought up that kind of worries me now. If we read the resume, do we have to read every single document? Because like he said, that is going to be a lot.
Yeah. I agree with you. I hope, can you hear me? I hope I'm not on mute.
Yeah, we hear you.
I agree with you. It's cumbersome. If you read all the literature on board participation, doesn't matter with the school board, it's the give and take in interaction. I mean, many employers, including my law firm, doesn't allow people, except in limited exceptions, to work remotely because of the need for the collaborative interaction. But there's nothing in the law that says the opinion that was written by the AG's office when I was there was, yes, you can have remote meetings, but no, nobody has a right to participate remotely. I mean, I hope that you all can come up on a date when you all can be there in person. I mean, you may have to just move this. Now, my understanding from Mark Jorstad, and I talked to him, I believe, yesterday, although, pardon me if my dates have smushed together, but most of they will not share the resumes electronically. We didn't put them up. I didn't put them up to it. I don't know where it comes from, but they will not do that. So you have a choice to go to a different provider, but they will not share resumes remotely. So you don't have a choice on this one. You have to decide. You can fire them. You can start with another search firm. If you want, but they will not share this remotely.
Members, we had the same situation in the last superintendent search. The firm would not share anything electronically remotely. So this is not specific to one organization. I think it's the organization is very validated as being the Superintendent's Association for the state. They know best on some of these things, and that's their policy. So
Let me add. I went back and I cross-examined I cross-examined Mark. And it wasn't Mr. Todd manipulating them into saying that. This, Mark is very, very clear. This is their policy. So if you don't like that, hire a different search firm. But they feel very strongly that and it's not us, it's not the school board, it's what they're requiring.
Mr. President, if I may.
you may.
So, Ms. Zimmerman, and I apologize, I'm not trying to pick on you. We're just trying to find a time when, if you're available. I would say we don't want to push this out more than a week. We've already looked at the timelines and schedules of the last meeting, and they are super tight trying to get this done. Is there a time when you will be in town? I would say anytime next week.
Mr. Kenyon and Mr. Todd, may I respond?
You may.
I am not going to be in town. And the reason that I did not, kind of give my full schedule is I knew that I would not be in town in a timely manner to move this process along. So again, it's my goal to not hold up the process. I know how important it is. And so that is why I said that, if it was Monday or Wednesday, it essentially didn't matter because I'm not going to be in town. And therefore, I truly don't want to hold up the process. I know how important this is, but I just also know how important my voice is to the constituents who elected me to have a voice in the most important thing that we do as board members. I'd like to ask a secondary question as I process what to do about the 30th, but there is nothing, there is no concern with participating in the interviews remotely. Is that a correct statement? Because we're just listening.
Yeah, I don't think there's any problem with that one. It's up to the board. It's not my call. As Ms. Siegel said, a board can option to allow somebody to attend remotely or not. I've not heard any suggestions from anyone that not happen.
I mean, this is not a function of whether one of you disagrees with the other. It's not a power play. It's not that I said you were into it. It's just that ASA does not share resumes on the internet. And that's a fact of life. Now, as I said, you can fire ASA and go back with another search company, or you can find a way around it. But they aren't steadfast. I called because I had a variation on theme solution, and they are not willing to do that. I mean, we're all educators at the end of the day, and we try to find solutions. And in my quest to find a solution, I thought of different solutions and that would be acceptable, but no. And so they said they're unwilling to have the resumes out there on the street with the names and shopping them.
Mr. President, if I may.
You may.
So with the understanding of the confidential data that we're talking about, I think that it would be prudent to have Monday's meeting in person only, and then Wednesday's meeting just be with the interviews. I think it would be fine to have Ms. Zimmerman be remote to that, or if other board members need to be remote. I prefer in person on that one as well, but I understand the need. So with that, I'm ready to make a motion if we're ready for it.
Okay, before we take a motion, is there any last thoughts? All right, go ahead.
Ms. Siegel, could you tell me what statute says that board members cannot participate remotely?
Hold on. There is no statute that says they cannot participate remotely. There was an attorney general opinion that was where a school district attorney by the name of Dean Pickett asked, can they participate remotely? And they said, yes, it's optional. There is no statute that says they cannot participate remotely. But what it did when it addressed that, it did not establish a right to participate remotely. It just says, yeah, they can. So no, there is no statute that says that everyone has to be in person. There is an attorney general opinion that says, yes, you can if you desire to do it. But nobody has a right to participate remotely.
My second question is, there was some questions about reading the resumes and supporting documents. What has ASA said that they are going to provide besides resumes?
I don't know that answer, and I'll defer to maybe Mr. Todd. Do you know what they are going to provide?
I'm not aware either. I can only speak to the last one, and when we did this before, they'd give us their resume, and a lot of these applicants have more of a book that they provide with different examples, any accommodation letters. So some of the books were several pages thick, and some were a little more narrow. I'm guessing that'll be the same thing with this group, but I have not asked.
But that's a good question, because candidates try to throw everything in that would cause you to want to think that they're the guy or gal for you. But it's just a practice.
Yeah, I think that is an
not
important
required.
question in terms of what it would take to read them. And although there have been 13 that have applied, have those been screened yet by ASA? Because he said that he, wouldn't bring us forward anybody that didn't have any superintendent experience, because we all decided that was not something we were looking for.
I don't know the answer.
That was my
I'm not
understanding. Those are screened. When I just called to confirm everything for you yesterday, that we were still shutting down, we didn't need to leave it open any longer. If there had been no applicants, because we had it on our district website linking as well, that was his update, that he had 13 and they had removed anything that wasn't relevant for us, or any person that wouldn't be relevant. And I don't know if that means they removed 0 or 10 or what. I didn't ask that.
Okay. And, this is why I had asked in the previous meeting that any communication about the process be sent to the entire board by Mr. Dorson, so that we were all privy to this information. So it's hard for me to say whether they can be read or not, because we don't know a lot of the information. We don't know if we're looking at resumes. We don't know for an interim, are people really submitting a book? Because we had talked about how the application process was going to be shorter. There was only going to be one question, a writing question. So, a one-page resume and a one-page question, I don't think is that long, but
I would think anybody that's applying for a job that pays what this one does and has the education level, if they submit a one-page resume and a one-page question, they're probably not qualified for this job. I doubt we have very few one-page resumes and one-page paragraphs.
Well, I believe that the question that we said they were going to ask is it was going to have a 200-word limit.
I'm talking more about the examples and other stuff that somebody's going to provide at an executive level, not a 250-word paragraph. I'm talking about all the other materials they may supply with their resume application in the process. Hearing no further discussion, I'll take a motion.
Mr. President, I make a motion to have Monday's meeting be in person and Wednesday's meeting to continue as planned. I have it written down, Ms. Minnie.
Okay. So the motion is have Monday's meeting in person, have Wednesday's meeting as planned. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion?
Can I ask a question?
You can discuss.
So as planned, does that mean a virtual option or no?
I would say yes. I mean, for the Wednesday, for the interviews.
I think we had
So
originally
the-
planned for both of them to have a virtual component, but when we found out we couldn't do virtual for the first one, that's what changes. But it was always originally planned for Monday and Wednesday to have a virtual component. Things changed for the Monday when ASA was not willing to release the documents electronically. So Wednesday would stay as planned with where you can join virtually. Monday would be the meeting where you're not able to join virtually.
And the board is not willing to read the resumes.
I don't know if they're not willing to do it. I didn't hear anybody say they weren't. I think there was concern expressed of how long that could take and how much is not knowing the size of the packet that's coming in from each candidate. I mean, I'll just ask each board member, Ms. Schmidt, are you willing to read every page of the stuff that comes into Ms. Zimmerman?
I mean, I would be willing to read aloud. I don't have an issue with that. As we've discussed, has been mentioned, we don't know how much there is going to be. So I don't know if it's realistic to say that we could read all of it, only because, a full amount, which, I don't even know what a reasonable up in my head, but I mean, I would be really willing to read aloud. Again, if we're talking like hundreds of pages, that doesn't seem reasonable, but that's really the question, and it's hard to say because we don't have a good grasp on what there will be.
Board Member Ciancioni.
My thoughts kind of align with Ms. Smith there. I don't know how much it would be. And to me, the issue comes down to, I don't know what the ASA is going to say, if what they'll allow us and not allow us to do. So I just have to go off of what their email said.
Vice President Kenyon.
Yeah, I stand by my motion.
Okay,
I have one more thing that just kind of came into my head. I'm sorry.
that's okay.
This is probably for Ms. Siegel, but talking about reading them aloud, I realize we wouldn't be technically sharing the documents. But if their concern is something getting shared or, would they be concerned about us reading them and that being potentially recorded? Because we're already agreeing to not share things, but there's still a concern that they would then be shared. So even though we're in executive session and saying we're not going to share anything, is the same concern going to apply if we read them aloud, that that somebody could be recording it potentially? I'm just trying to play devil's advocate on what they're going to throw at us to say why this might not be an okay option.
This is Susan. I can talk to them this weekend about it. I think it's a reasonable option. We've all read resumes. We know how all of us are leaders. We know how to go through resumes. I will tell them that's what we want to do. And they're just going to have to get over themselves.
Okay, thank you. I just, trying to get ahead of all of the questions before they come back and then we have to talk about this again. So, yeah, thank you.
I will say there is a doctrine that you don't give some materials to one board member and not the other board member. It has to be an equal playing field. And so this could be a compromise, a way to deal with it. I am sympathetic to Mrs. Zimmerman's comments, and we've all had to wade through the challenges of COVID and everything else. But we've got a vendor that does not want these resumes to get out. I could call them. I think they will agree. I don't know. I haven't talked to them. But I think they need to agree to this.
Ms. Zimmerman, would it be appropriate if we recess, not recess, but just pause the meeting for a short time? I guess recess would be right. Recess the meeting for you to call them and ask them if that would be acceptable. Because I would hate to have a decision made. I'm trying to be as accommodating as possible for every board member and then deal with the situation.
Yeah,
So
I can do that if you want, but I would suggest a different way is for me to call Mark and just say, this is the way we want to do it, and it's not putting you in a worse situation. And we want to make sure that every board member is on a level playing field. And this is the best compromise we can come up with.
I understand. My question though is, do you want to do that now? So in case he says
Well,
no, we can take other action, because we'll need to take other action at that point.
All right. How do you want me to do that? I mean, you want all to go back and call back in, or?
Yeah, I mean, if
Why
you're
don't
on
you
your
just
phone, you
let
can
me-
hang up and call back. You can call, so we can get you back into the meeting. But if you call Mark,
Who am I talking? I called it. Okay, you guys, I'm going to bow out and call Mark.
you can call Mark, and when you're ready to be brought back in, just call Miss Camerata's phone, her cell phone, and then she can let IT know to call you and bring you back in that way if the link is not working for you. to
All
come in
right,
on the
I'm
computer.
bowing out for a moment.
Okay, we'll show
Thank
it's
you.
2:50. We'll show we're in recess till we hear back from you.
Okay.
Siegel,
Said he would
Ms.
agree to
Siegel,
that.
Ms. Siegel, please wait
Yeah.
1 second so I can get the meeting started again, and we have IT
Okay.
broadcasting, and then I'll call for you. 1 second, please. Okay, it's now 3:02. We will show the board back into session, and Ms. Siegel, can you please provide an update off the phone call you had with the vendor?
Mr. Georgette. He said that's fine. There are 14 applicants as of today. Some of them are very qualified, some not so qualified. He said he thought it would be better if you limited it to relevant dates and relevant positions. But he's willing to have you read. I mean, if you read the whole thing, you're going to be there forever. But he said, and that's your decision, but he's willing to have it be read to Kelly so that she has a shot at understanding who the applicants are.
Okay, my concern, however, is for me, just a clarifying question, which I think there's been a few asked. If we don't read every part that's on there, if we just read the quote unquote highlights, that's not providing Ms. Zimmerman with all of the information. That's providing her with some of it.
No,
So-
it's not. It's
so-
not.
So
But
at any point,
it's going to be a long meeting.
it's gonna be very long if the board wants to do that. We have a motion, we have a second. We're in discussion phase. So I'll give everybody about 30 seconds to come up with any further discussion, and then we'll take a vote. We'll at least have to clear, unless Ms. Board Member Kenyon wants to recall his motion, but otherwise we'll have to vote on it.
Mr. President,
Mr. Kenyon, go ahead.
as of right now, I do not want to recall my motion. However, I do want to explain that my concern with limiting what somebody would consider relevant information, in my eyes, hurts my ability to do my job. Yeah, I want all the information the candidate's willing to provide, and I don't want somebody to determine what's relevant, what's not, because there may be something in there that stands out, and it may not be relevant to one person and relevant to the other. So I think whatever they're willing to provide should be provided to the board members. But as of right now, my motion still stands.
Okay, is there any more discussion?
Mr. President. I kind of feel the same way. Like the reading it, the 14 candidates, it seems excessive. Not knowing how much stuff, and so the meeting. I just don't know how long that would take. I don't know how much is in the packet, and I can't really vote on what I don't know at this time. I have to vote with what I know.
Thank you. Any further comments, Ms. Schmidt or Ms. Zimmerman?
Yeah, kind of just echoing the same thing. I still stand by the fact that I would be willing to read. However, without knowing how much that is and not wanting it to be, a never-ending meeting, I'm just stuck on that, and then with Mr. Jornstan saying only sharing or only reading the relevant information, I agree. What's relevant to me may not be relevant to somebody else. And so I don't feel like I'm the person who should make that decision, or any one of us, honestly, make it for someone else. And so that's kind of where I'm at right now. But yeah.
Okay, if there's no further discussion, we'll take the vote. Can you reread the motion one more time, Ms. Camerata? It's been a while. I want everybody to clearly understand what they're voting on.
Of course. The motion is motion to have Monday's meeting be in person and Wednesday's meeting continue as planned. Chris Kenyon made the motion. Board Member Brian Cirincione second.
Okay, you've all heard the motion. The second, we've had discussion. We'll call for the vote. Board Member Schmidt.
Aye.
Board Member Zimmerman.
Nay.
Vice President Kenyon.
Aye.
Board Member Cirincione.
Aye.
I'm also an aye. We will show that approved 4 yes, 1 no. Our next item on the agenda is 3.1, board comments on agenda topics and items for future consideration. Okay, hearing none, we'll move to item 4.2. 4.1, upcoming board meetings. Our next meeting will be Monday, June 30th. That will be a candidate screening. We will also name our finalists, who will then return to a board meeting on July 2nd, which is Wednesday. That will be where we conduct final interviews and name our finalist for the interim superintendent position. And then on July 14th, we will have our regular governing board meeting.
Mr.
Now,
President,
yes.
can I just ask, just to clarify, the principal meeting is no longer on the 14th. That's correct?
Yes, we've moved that to a different time. This is going to be a very long meeting. It's looking at some things. We could have up to 4 executive sessions on the 14th. I think that's going to be a very late night. So
Okay,
we're
that's fine.
just trying to
So are we
reschedule for
still
that.
starting at the same time that we had planned and just hoping that we don't end up staying till the next day?
Yes, actually, and I was going to ask later on, there is a potential that we try to move it up an hour. That's why we started giving the principals notice of readjusting that original roundtable with them as well. But until we know everything, there's some things coming forward, and we're not sure if they're going to be on the 14th, but it's looking like they will. So we may try to go an hour earlier if it works for the board. If not, then we'll have to stay where it is and stay an hour later.
Okay. I just wanted to, for all of the scheduling purposes, just clarify. Thank you.
Understand. Appreciate it. All right,
And can I ask a question?
you may.
When are we rescheduling the principals meeting?
We don't have a schedule yet on that. I'm working with staff to find a time where they'll be able to, where the principals will be able to attend and board members will attend. So we'll get that soon. It is a high priority to get that done.
And so you will be asking the board members their availability as well, because it's not going to be on a regular meeting day?
I'm not saying it's not going to be on a regular meeting day. It's not going to be on July 14th. But yes, we always ask board members when they're available. We've never scheduled a meeting without checking with board members first. It's never happened. Okay. Hearing no further questions, we will move to item 5.1, which is the adjournment of the meeting. It's 3:10. We'll show the meeting adjourned.